This is a big hitter at math. This is a big, huge concept in math. Okay. When you talk about zeros with regards to division problems, there are three possibilities that you can have. Three possibilities. You can either have, let's do this, 0, let's just say 0 divided by 8. Okay, you can have 0 divided by some number, or you could have some number divided by 0, or you could have, anybody know what my third one is? You have 0 divided by 0. And this one technically isn't dividing by 0, but it's something we have to throw in there because you have to be able to recognize the difference here. Three choices with zeros in the division problem. Brandon? We're going to get to that. Now, what I want you just for a second to do is think about what a division problem really is. And let's take away the zeros and just say, okay, 10 divided by 5. What is that? 2, correct? Now, what a division problem really is backwards multiplication or undoing multiplication, in which you say this number, this 2 times this 5, this times this has to give you that. Right on? So if I put that same logic with this, 0 divided by 8, what number times 8 gives me 0? 0. I can do that. Okay, because 0 times 8 equals 0. That's all good to go. Okay, 0 divided by any number will always be 0. Always 0. Okay. Now, if I put that though to the test over here, and I go with that with this, 8 divided by 0 equals what number? What you have to ask yourself is, what number, when you multiply it by 0, will give you 8? Somebody, I'm opening this up here. Shellhammer, what number times 0 gives you 8? Okay, this is basically not allowed in math. Okay, it is what the great mathematicians like to call undefined. Okay, which if you remember back, I don't have it on the wall anymore, I used to have the 10 Commandments of Math. Commandment number 1, Nick, is, yes, commandment number 1 is, thou shalt not divide by 0. Dividing by 0 is just a bad place where nobody wants to go. Okay, you are not allowed ever to divide by 0 because you can't do it. Okay. Now, this case though, it's a little bit different when you end up with this. Because if you put this into our little, thought process here, 0 divided by 0 is what number? What number times 0 gives you 0? 1, 5, 10, 800, 8,000, negative 15, negative 18, 155,000. Really, when you have 0 divided by 0, okay, really you can have any number there. And I'm not sure what the book actually calls that, because sometimes I see different things on that, but you know, you have to be careful when you get to a problem that if you see a 0 on bottom, you just have to make sure it's undefined as long as there's something on top. If there's a 0 on top, then actually I don't know if they call it no solution or infinite, they might call it infinite solutions or whatever it is, but just know, this is the big one right here, you can't have that. Now, when we get to the upper levels of Mathematico, and you see a problem that looks like this, 5 divided by x, okay, the book will always ask you, what can't you get for x, or they'll say to state the excluded values. In other words, if you see a problem like this, 5 divided by x, you have to say that x cannot equal 0. Because if you put a 0 in for x, you come up with an undefined problem. Okay, you cannot get a 0 on the bottom of a fraction like that. So they'll say state what values x can't be. X could be any number but 0. Okay, because you cannot divide by 0. And they kind of go about it like this. Here's an interesting way to look at it. Let's say I have 10 over, let's say I just have 10 divided by x. 10 divided by x. And if I am graphing that, equals y. If I am graphing that, let's just look at some values here. What happens, let's pick some nice numbers for x. When x is what? 2, y is? When x is 5, y is 2. When x is negative 2, y is negative 5. When x is 1, y is 10. How about this? I'll test your little thing here. See if you can think about this. What about when x is 1/2? 10 divided by half is the same thing as flipped over multiplied. It equals 20. What if x was 1/4? Flip it over, you get 40. If x was 1/8, if x was 1/10, okay, so if you are graphing this, okay, the closer you get to the y-axis, what starts to happen? Well, let's just graph what we got here and you'll see. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2 is 5. 2, 1, 2, 3.
8th grade picture time. If you have retakes, can only happen if you had your picture envelope except for the Daniel Lift. You need to go down there, they've got your name written all over. Somebody asked the photographer today if they could have their picture taken if they didn't have their envelope, and that is incorrect, so you have to have your picture envelope in order to have your picture taken, which is what it said in the communique from us. So,
Everybody jump up at the same time.
alright, so if you need to get in line,
Looks like we've got
alright, do it.
Nathaniel, who just wasn't here, right, for picture day? That's picture day. Okay, so looking at this, and then 5 was 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 was 2. Okay, do we have anything in between that? No. But we do know that 1 was 10, so that's going to be way up here. 1/2, which is halfway here, was 20. I mean, that's already up here. You end up with a line that looks like this. Okay, and you'll also end up with a line that looks like this, -2, -5. You'll get a mirror image of that on this side that looks like this. But what happens is, at the point 0, if you pick 0 for x, it'll never get there. Okay, these fractions, as you get closer and closer to the y-axis here, this line keeps going on up on a more straight line. And it's hard for our minds to think about this. But this line, the line of this equation there, will never ever touch this axis, nor will it touch that axis. But the closer you get, the more straight that line goes shooting straight up. For example, if I said, what would be 1 over, if I had 100?
1,000.
Okay, it would be 1,000 on the y-axis. But that's awful close to the y. axis, and that's why it's undefined, because it will never, you'll never be able to put a value in for x. You can never have 10 divided by 0 because it's undefined. Hence the reasons. Now, since HI is looking like she's, sometimes it gets a little more complex. What if I have this? 2 over x minus 3. What can x not be?
0.
No, x could be 0 there because if you have 0 minus 3, you get minus 3 on the bottom. And you can have a negative 3 on the bottom.
3.
Okay, it can't be, honestly, it can't be a positive 3. That's the excluded value because if you put a positive 3 in there, you're going to get a 3. Or what about this one? It gets a little tougher here. 16 over x squared minus 4. What cannot x be? 2. Because if you get 4 here, 4 minus 4 is 0, you can't have 0 at the bottom there. How about 2y minus 8? Let's just go 8 over 2y minus 8. Y cannot equal,
4.
what number here would give you a 0? And if you don't know, by the way, if you can't just look at this and go, oh, that should be 4, you can do this off to the side, say, okay, I have 2y minus 8. When will that equal 0? Because when that's 0, that's what y can't be. So you add 8, solve the equation, you get 8 over there, divide by 2, you get 4. So y cannot be 4. Because if you get a 4, then you end up with a 0 on the bottom. And thou shalt not ever divide by 0. Ain't that fun? Jackson?
But for the fourth thing, like you got 4 for that, so would you just say, wait, so 4 goes in 8, but it can't be that good. 4 cannot be it because
It can't be 4 because when you multiply 2 times 4, you get 8, and 8 minus 8 is 0, and you can't have 0 on the bottom. That's the only reason why it can't be 4. But sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's not real easy to figure out what that is, and if it doesn't, then make it an equation, set it equal to 0, and see what your variable has to be to get 0, and then you just say it's not there. Shanks?
Wouldn't they be like decimals, like 0.02y minus 8?
But even if they did give you a decimal, Nick makes a good point, because I think that'll drive this home. Let's say it was 8 over 0.02y minus 8. Okay, if you can't figure out what that is, again, off to the side, go, okay, when will 0.02y minus 8 be equal to 0? Because when you know what that number is, that's what it can't be. So you do the same thing, you add 8, divide by 0.02, or multiply both sides by 100, you get 2y equals 800, divide by 2, y cannot be 400. Because if you put 400 there, 400 times 0.02 will give you 8, 8 minus 8 is 0, and you can't have that. Does that make any sense? I go really fast there. I hope so.